Tennessee. A Jonesboro man was arrested on Wednesday after police reportedly found more than 300 images of child sexual abusive material in his possession. The Tennessee Sheriff's Office deputies conducted a search warrant at a home on Summit Drive, and there they found this chomo, Michael Tucker, 48. He was arrested and found in possession of more than 300 images of child sexual abuse material, and he was charged with aggravated sexual exploitation of a minor. As of Wednesday, Tucker is still being held at the Washington County Detention Center with no bond, and he's set to appear in court this Thursday at 1:30 p.m., and you can guarantee we'll be there with the sex offender hit list. Rochester, Minnesota. A tip from the Internet Crimes Against Children's Task Force has led to the arrest of a Rochester man. 27-year-old Kevin Heath was booked into the Olmsted County Adult Detention Center on Monday. He's facing charges of first-degree criminal sexual conduct, possession of pornographic material involving a person under 13, and disseminating pornographic material involving a person under 13. The Rochester Police Department said the tip led to a search in the 4,000 block of Valley Drive Northwest, where evidence against Heath was found. Gotcha, chomo. Down in Florida, an Okeechobee man was arrested for possession of child sexual abuse materials on Tuesday. According to state agents, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, otherwise known as the FDLE, said the investigation began on January 16th after their agents identified an unknown internet user downloading electronic files depicting the sexual abuse of children. Following multiple leads, agents were able to identify 60-year-old chomo Wayne Adams, this guy over here, as the internet user who was downloading that material. On February 15th, the FDLE agents served a search warrant at Adams' home and seized all of his devices. Forensic analysis showed multiple files on Adams' devices showing children being sexually abused. Adams was then arrested and booked into the Okeechobee County Jail for 10 felony counts of possession of child sexual abuse materials. He's being held there because he can't afford to get out on a $500,000 cash-only bond. I got quite a story here from North Carolina for you guys. The Statesville Police Department were alerted to a call about a 13-month-old child being brought to Iredell Memorial Hospital unresponsibly. The release further states that the father of the child, this guy over here, Christopher Torres, reportedly said he found the child unresponsive, but investigators found a lot of inconsistencies with his statement. After interviewing the child's mom, the cops say the child was left in Torres' care while she went to work, and Torres claimed the sustained injuries that the child had happened in a fall. But a medical center claimed the injuries were intentional and that they resulted in 2 brain bleeds and several bruising areas. The release says that investigators determined Torres' explanation didn't align with the severity of the child's injuries. Now here's the thing, during that investigation, police discovered a sexual relationship between this chomo and a juvenile 15 years old. So, warrants for 10 counts of statutory rape and sex offenses were obtained on March 5th. Torres was apprehended and transported to the Iredell County Jail. As said in this release, felony child abuse charges were issued against him as well. It was also stated that Torres' 3 juvenile daughters' custody was assumed by the Department of Social Services. Of course they're going to take your kids away, you chomo. After interviewing the 3 juveniles about the incident, the Department of Social Services claimed that the child's grandma, Burma Pabin, and their aunt, Tiffany Roman, told the kids to provide false statements. Warrants were then issued for those 2 as well for felony accessory after the fact. Roman was apprehended by Iredell County Sheriff's Department but Padan's whereabouts are still unknown at this time. Wish we had a picture of her. Throw it up there. The release says the 13-month-old child's been discharged from the hospital, but will require physical therapy. And this investigation, of course, is still ongoing. Messed up story. See ya, Chomo. Child abusing Chomo. Hope they give you life in prison. The Texarkana Police Department said a man has been arrested for child grooming after reportedly sending sexually suggestive messages and videos to several underage girls. According to a release, Matthew Riddle, 35-year-old of Texarkana, had access to the underage girls through their involvement in youth sports activities in the community. Texarkana PD said that while they cannot provide details to the case due to the age of the victims, the police department said this type of behavior is used by pedophiles. Hey, they use the word to manipulate and gain the trust of minors in small steps towards sexual contact. Riddle was taken to the bi-state jail and his bond was set at $100,000. Wish we had more information on this Chomo. We'll see him again though, right here on the sex offender hit list. See ya, Chomo. Avon, Indiana. A former state employee with the Indiana Office of Technology was arrested Monday following a months-long CSAM investigation dating back to May of 23. This is 44-year-old Bradley Keller. He's facing felony charges for child exploitation and possessing child sexual abuse materials. Investigators with the Avon Police Department received 2 tips from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children in May and December of last year. The tips both associated with social media accounts owned by this guy. They showed Keller uploading multiple videos of child sexual abuse material onto X and Snapchat. After tracking Keller from December to March, police conducted the famous traffic stop. That's where they pull you over on the highway so they can serve the warrant at the house and snatch up all your electronic devices, you Chomo. Well, they took him down in the 1200 block of Dan Jones Road in Avon. Keller was taken back to the police department for questioning, confirming that he owned the devices and accounts connected to those tips. The interview ended early after Keller requested a lawyer. Keller was then taken to the Hendricks County Jail on, check this out, a measly $5,000 bond. And of course he was not listed as an inmate Wednesday morning. Sad. The hearing was set for Tuesday morning, and a trial hasn't been yet set. And now over to Idaho. A 40-year-old Ammon man was arrested after a young girl reported she had been sexually abused by him for multiple years. This is Brandon Robert Phillips. He's been charged with 3 felony counts of lewd conduct with a child. On August 4th, a Bonneville County Sheriff's deputy met with a 16-year-old girl who reported Phillips had sexually abused her multiple times. The victim said the abuse occurred between 2018 and 2021. She then told the deputy Phillips had touched her inappropriately and performed sexual acts on her. A family member was told about the abuse in 2022 and told the victim to lie about the abuse and say it didn't happen. We find this all too often. Maybe they just don't want to mess up the family dynamic. I don't get it, but I think that child's mental welfare is worth way more than any Chomo on the face of the earth. Later, during interviews with the victim, she told the deputies Phillips would routinely tell her to never talk to the police. Well, I wonder why, Chomo. The victim said the family member would deny knowing about the sexual abuse due to Phillips controlling them. She also said that Phillips has stated that he would never admit to what he's done. But in an audio recording of a conversation on August 6th, the family member reportedly told the victim she believed her about the sexual abuse, but Phillips, this Chomo here, had told her not to talk to anyone about what occurred and that he attempted to take his own life that day. A sick man. Phillips abused the victim in his home while watching a movie in his home, his office, and in his bedroom. Well, a warrant was issued for Phillips' arrest on March 8th. His bond was set at a mere $75,000, which he posted it, and he was released the next day. No contact order, of course, was issued and all this and that. What I don't understand here is Phillips is expected to appear for a preliminary hearing on March 29th, which if he's convicted of this stuff, he could face up to life in prison. How are you going to give a man that's facing life in prison a $75,000 bond? Don't make sense to me. Freaking judicial system sucks. We're going to head back down to Florida for this one. It's not a chomo. It's a chomo enabler. You might be a chomo too, though. I mean, if you enable, why are you going to enable, right? That's a very good question. This is the assistant principal at a Catholic school. And he's implicated in the alleged cover-up of the sexual abuse of a middle school girl, or girls, by a physical ed teacher. On Wednesday, Ryan Mitchell Clemens, a 41-year-old, was arrested on charges of child neglect and tampering with evidence. The charges followed the arrest of Christopher Chell, a 46-year-old. We posted him, I think, last week on the channel here. Yeah, last Thursday. He's on 10 counts of lewd and lascivious battery of a child between the ages of 12 and 16. That physical ed teacher for the Catholic school in Gainesville was arrested on charges of sexually abusing multiple middle school girls, the Gainesville Police Department detective said. But while investigating those allegations, Chell appropriately touched middle school girls at the school. They learned that Clemens, this guy right here, held a closed-door meeting with a victim and Chell. So he's going to bring the teacher in and the victim and sit down and talk to them both. Should have called the cops. In the meeting, the police officers say that Clemens believed Chell's story and disregarded the victim's report. And then afterwards, he considered the investigation complete. Well, days later, Clemens reported the incident to the Department of Children and Families and gave the agency false information, which minimized the incident there. After the initial report to the DCF, a teacher and a group of students separately told Clemens of similar inappropriate touching incidents with Chell. Clemens failed to take any action to protect any of those students, and therefore you deserve jail right where you're at and hope you stay there for a long time, Chomo enabler. Fort Wayne, Indiana. A 45-year-old man serving a prison sentence for theft has been charged with child molesting. This is 45-year-old Dean Barand Jr. He's charged with 2 counts of child molestation and faces a 52-year sentence if convicted of these charges. The victim told police she was just 9 or 10 years old when Barand assaulted her, according to a probable cause affidavit written by Fort Wayne Police Detective Miranda Lashley. She said Barand assaulted her while she was sleeping in 2019 and ran away when he noticed she woke up. Then he acted like it never happened, of course. Barand is set to appear in court for the first time in the matter on Thursday, tomorrow. We'll see you then, Chomo. An Aurora man has been sentenced to 17 years in prison for sexually assaulting a child. Kane County Judge Elizabeth Flood imposed that sentence on March 8th for Lewis T. Richardson, a 63-year-old of the 1600 block of Park Vista Lane, according to that news release from Kane County State's Attorney's Office. Last June, Flood found Richardson guilty of 2 counts of predatory criminal sexual assault of a child and 2 counts of aggravated criminal sexual abuse. Prosecutors said that in several of the counts, the child was under the age of 13, and Richardson was acquainted with the child. If that was Florida, it'd been the death penalty. Lucky Chomo. Richardson must serve 85% of the first 14 years of his sentence, and 50% of the last 3 before he's eligible for parole. He'll also have to register for life as a sex offender if he ever makes it out of prison. Richardson is facing other charges, is why I say that, and they're for predatory criminal sexual assault of a child, as well as aggravated criminal sexual abuse involving another child. See ya, Chomo.
Brighton, you're right. It's a step in the right direction.
When a child experiences trauma, they can be stripped of their ability to imagine. But imagination is colours. All the colours. Imagination is freedom. And whatever you want it to be. But a child without imagination is not a child at all. Will you help defend our right to imagine?
Where boy Brighton at? Where my boy Brighton? Listen, y'all don't see Brighton in the building right now. Y'all know where Brighton at.